The Burp tax is dead and farmers are off the hook for emissions for now.
In a move that relieved farmers and infuriated climate campaigners, the government's moved to keep agriculture out of the emissions trading scheme. Our climate correspondent Isabel Ewing is here with the details now. Kia ora, Isabel.
This is the end of the road for He Waka Eke Noa. The sector group was formed 2 years ago, but as a country, we've been trying to get agreement on emissions pricing for agriculture since 2008. Now, He Waka Eke Noa has been disbanded. Farmers could have faced some really big bills from next year, as without a solution, agriculture would have automatically been folded into the emissions trading scheme. Now, the government is changing the law to stop that happening. Instead, there'll be a new pastoral sector group to tackle methane and invest in research. The political divide could not be clearer. ACT is thrilled, saying farmers were being lined up as a sacrifice to the climate gods, while the Greens are appalled, accusing the government of putting half of our emissions into the too hard basket. And there are now big questions about how New Zealand will meet its global climate commitments.
It was an awkward day to be the climate change minister.
Anybody here is buying your greenwashing bullshit.
His speech to an Environmental Defence Society conference derailed by young activists.
Simon, as the climate change minister, do you feel like a complete failure? Or is your goal objectively and actually to maximise global heating and climate disruption?
The conference organisers not impressed.
Please shut up.
The heated confrontation coming as the coalition government announced it is delaying plans to get farmers to pay for their emissions.
All it does is puts cost upon farmers, which will send jobs and production overseas to less carbon efficient farms.
2 years ago, the previous government announced a plan to price farmers' emissions, but what was declared a historic consensus between government and farmers fell apart. Now the He Waka Eke Noa deal has been scrapped, the coalition government saying it's time for a fresh start.
We are committed to meeting our reduction obligations, but we can do that in partnership with the sector by the use of new technologies and many other things.
Legislation to bring agriculture into the ETS by 2025 will be changed, and it's not clear if the government plans to meet the previous government's methane targets.
The last government set a target of 24 to 47%. That's not a target. That's like throwing a dart at a dartboard hoping it's going to make a difference. Agriculture has an obligation to reduce its emissions. We need to know exactly what they need to do to be able to ask them to do that.
The Greens are worried we're pushing our Paris Agreement commitments out of reach.
We're at huge risks of huge costs mounting up further down the track if we are not meeting our international commitments.
There is optimism from those working to find technological solutions to New Zealand's methane problem.
We've demonstrated in the lab that you can induce an immune response in the animal to the microbes that produce methane, and hence a vaccine is in theory possible. We've demonstrated that some chemical compounds can inhibit methane production.
In a press release detailing the announcement, Climate Change Minister Simon Watt's contact details were listed. However, when Newshub requested an interview, we were told it would be Agriculture Minister Todd McClay doing all interviews.
Where is Simon Watts?
Well, he was tracked down by climate activists, making a hasty exit via a side door as they took to the stage.
How do you sleep at night, Simon? How do you sleep at night?
Anger, frustration and division as our commitment to cut our emissions by half by 2030 creeps closer. Isabel Ewing, Newshub.